That's a long fade out on that video. It hits this big hit at the end, and it's like 3 seconds of silence. I ought to fix that. Someone should do something about that. Welcome to Meet the Tanukis. My name is PJ Metz. I'm an education evangelist at GitLab, and this is a show all about other team members at GitLab. Y'all see me on this channel frequently. Usually I'm writing Python code, but more frequently than that, I'm upset because my Python code isn't working. And that's how you usually see me, is with this like upsetty spaghetti face, and I'm drinking like a Mountain Dew Kickstart, and I'm looking all like regretful and sad about the amount of work that I have done that's not being productive in the code. Why doesn't the code work? But this show's not about me, despite how much my background tries to make it about me. This show is about other team members at GitLab, and GitLab is this fantastic company that I work for. Full disclosure, I work for GitLab, as if that wasn't obvious. And we are here because we're talking to other team members. We've done people like John Coughlin before. We've talked to Brendan O'Leary, people on the community relations team. We've talked to Wayne Haber, a director of engineering. And today I'm very excited because the person that we have today is a person that is, first off, I see them all the time. I am always in a Zoom with them or in a Slack channel with them. We're going to talk about our favorite Slack channel today. It's going to be great. And I am always seeing them around, and they make me immensely happy. And their work is immensely important to what we do at GitLab. So, since this show's not about me, and Manuel Cookie, you are absolutely right to woo-hoo right now. Let's continue the woo-hooing. Thank you very much for being on the show. Please, everybody, welcome Jessica Reeder.
Hey, everybody. Hello. Nice to see you.
Yes,
thanks for having
again.
me, PJ. Thanks for the great intro. Appreciate it.
I do my best. Would you believe I made all of that up on the spot and didn't have a script off to the side that I read?
Very smooth. Very smooth.
Yes, you can't even tell. See, Sugar Overflow gets it. Lots of woohoos out there.
Hey, Sugar Overflow.
That's right. Oh, Sugar Overflow. So glad to see you in my chat.
So
listen, I know who you are. I know what your title is. I know what your deal is. But Jessica, the people at home, they don't know, and they need to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this cool button, and you're going to tell us all about yourself and why you're here and all that good stuff. So take it away. Tell us all about you.
My name is Jessica Reeder. If you can't read the screen, I am on the all-remote thought leadership team at GitLab, which is a dream job for me. So what I get to do is spend all of my time thinking about how to do remote work well and how to get the word out about remote work, how to make teams happier, how to make the work better, all of that. My pronouns are she or they, so you can use she, her, or they, them when referring to me. Either is fine. And it's been a dream for me to do this work at GitLab. I'm super excited about it. I love working with PJ all the time. That's been a wonderful part of it. Absolutely echo everything that you said. And I love the whole team. It's a really exciting and fun place to work. But one thing that I wanted to sort of get into today is that I have sort of a non-traditional background. And for a lot of people in tech, that's not something you see as often or necessarily know about. So I wanted to come and talk about that a little bit today.
That's fantastic. And I, too, am of the non-traditional background. And actually, when we were talking before the show, you told me what your major was. And my major was English. So I ended up with a BA in English. And Avenue Q, musical about puppets, has a famous song called What Do You Do with a BA in English? And I actually remember a time I worked at TGI Fridays at the time. My manager said, oh, you're majoring in English? So you'll probably be a manager next to me in the future. And I was like, is that what I do? I'm going to manage at TGI Fridays? Jessica, when you have a similar major, what's your major and how did it lead you to where you are?
My major is linguistics. So that's the theory and the science of language. And I got really into it. It's like, how do you deconstruct language? How does language work on a theoretical level? Well, guess what? There's not a lot of work in that field. There's more now than there used to be. But at the time, it was very much like, okay, great. You love linguistics. So you can be a professor in linguistics, or you can go be a secretary in an office, which is what I decided to do.
So you were majoring in linguistics, and it's always like, I feel like the people that are around our age that were growing up, it was always, you're going to college, major in something you love. And
Exactly.
Then we did, and then they were like, all right, now you don't have a job. And I was like, but you said,
Well, you know what though? I don't regret it. I don't regret it for a second. Like I knew going into college that I wanted to study language. I'm so glad that I did. I had an amazing experience. And I think really, I just wasn't ready to decide what career I should have yet. And so studying something that I loved at least meant that I would show up to classes and I would do well and I'd be passionate about learning, which at the time was, that was pretty good for me.
Yeah, no, sometimes it was a coin flip whether I actually wanted to do any of the schoolwork I was assigned because it all was based on whether I liked the class or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's majoring in what you love, and even though, like you said, there was like either continue in academia or go be a secretary. Even then, I would bet money right now, and I didn't talk to you about this before, and I'd bet that your linguistic background has somehow been a benefit or boon to you in your career as you move forward in life. Do
So
you
it
think that's
totally
true?
has. Yeah, no, you're totally
Yeah.
right. I would not have been able to predict at that time that I would be working on a global distributed team and working with people all over the world and be able to communicate better because I understand a little bit about language and I speak a little bit of several languages. And so I know a little bit about grammar and I know how to communicate clearly, which has actually been a huge strength. So now I work with people from all over the world and I feel like I'm more able to adjust the way that I speak, which I think is a very essential skill for working on a global team, to not just assume that people understand all of the cliches and the idioms and whatnot that you use, but instead try to figure out how do I express myself clearly in a way that anyone can understand it. So that's been great. And then also, I think just understanding communication in general, like understanding language, how a language signal is received and perceived, different ways that things come across different cultures and across different really grammar backgrounds. All of that has made me more skilled in talking to people and communicating and in writing, which is what I spent a lot of my career doing so far.
It's really easy and we're going to talk about this globally distributed, amazing, fully remote company we work for in a second. But it's very easy in communication when you are working mostly asynchronously, mostly completely apart from other people. It's easy to have communication breakdowns because people aren't being conscientious of the way they're using language. And I love that actually at GitLab, there have been several speakers that have come to talk to us about the importance of how we use written language and how we communicate and the importance of communicating effectively. So you say globally distributed, fully remote. What does that mean? How did you help build that at GitLab? Like when we say GitLab is fully remote, globally distributed, what do they mean by that?
Well, I'm not going to take credit for building it. But
it was you. It was all you.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you very much. So GitLab itself is a team of, over 1,300 people in 65 plus countries. And so, yes, we work and communicate with each other in English, but of course, everyone has a different background and different place they're coming from with that. And everybody works asynchronously, which PJ mentioned, and that means that we're all on different time zones, and we're mostly communicating through messages that someone will read later. So there's a whole lot of nuance that you need to get into when you're working in that way. You need to really think ahead about what is someone going to need in order to actually read and understand this message and then actually do something with it. So there's a lot that goes along with that. I find it extremely challenging and extremely rewarding. And I find that it's a learning environment for me where I'm always trying to figure something out new that I haven't experienced before.
I love the idea that it's a place where we come to learn and a place where we all have the expectation that we're encountering something new and challenging and we're going to have to find a way to work through that as a team. Like that's one of the things I love about GitLab is I always feel challenged but not overly burdened in the challenge. Like there are expectations of me, but like it's easy to kind of rise to those expectations.
Yeah, if you're not learning at your job, then you might want to find one where you are. Like we should always be developing and always challenging ourselves and always putting ourselves just a little bit outside of our comfort zone, because that's how you grow as a person. And if you're not growing as a person, then why bother?
One of the first stickers I put on my GitLab laptop. Well, I bought a cover for the laptop first because I felt weird about putting a sticker directly on it. But the first sticker I put on it was a hello sticker, like from when we used to like see people in person. Hello, I'm still learning is what it says, and I think that's really important that everyone
Love it.
acknowledges that they're learning.
Yep.
No one's an expert. No one's perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So, as an all remote senior campaign manager, what are some of the ways that you and your team help GitLab work remotely? Because as I understand it, GitLab's kind of a leader in this. Now, granted, I work at GitLab, so I'm just tooting my own horn here. But what is it about remote work that people find sort of difficult, and how is GitLab doing it really well? What are some advice maybe that you have?
Yeah, so I want to first of all put it out there that I'm a remote work expert, but a lot of people at GitLab are experts in remote work, and this team has been built iteratively. People have iterated on the processes over time in order to make it really, really, really good. So I entered March 2020. Basically day one of the pandemic. So it's been quite a ride. And my role is actually not just to make sure that remote work is done well, but to get the word out, right? So I came in to a fully formed team that already had super strong processes. The way that people do that at GitLab is what's really extraordinary. Everything is always in draft. Things are always being worked on, they're always being improved, and anyone on the team is allowed to have feedback and input. So if something's not working, you'll actually hear about it instead of never ever hearing it and something just continuing to be wrong. So that is absolutely amazing. What my team does is we work somewhat internally. So we're trying to reinforce processes, remind people, hey, this handbook page exists, you should go check it out. And then we also work with other companies. We do a lot of external work, especially since the pandemic. A lot of people have been coming to GitLab to say, give us your remote playbook, which we have, by the way. The remote playbook, you can download it for free. It's how we run the entire company, and it links out to a ton more supplemental information throughout our website. But companies are looking for that. They're looking for specific questions that we can answer for them about, how do I transition to remote really quickly was a big one in early 2020. And now it's a little bit more like, how do I build a culture that's going to last? How do I make sure that people are connecting with each other when we never see each other in person? How do we do this across camera? And that is something that GitLab is completely expert at, which I love. We really do that pretty well.
Yeah, as I understand it, if I'm listening to a lot of CEOs on Twitter, actually, I should be working in an office, and it would be way better for me.
Yeah, they all seem to think that.
It's weird. Obviously, I have my bubble of remote people, and really, in my my career as an education evangelist, which is kind of a subset of developer relations, almost every DevRel I know tends to be like a remote worker. But they're not necessarily at a company that does full remote, which one of the things that makes GitLab stand out is full remote, top to bottom, no office to check into. And it's really unique and it's really exciting. So when you talk about your job is to sort of do this internal, but also that external, get the word out and talk to other companies. This question is sort of half formed in my head. What's the best remote work advice you have for a company who's thinking about going remote? Why should they go remote?
So this is actually one we get a lot. So let me step back just for a second and say that you said something really cool and really important, and that's been crucial for me, which is that a lot of people, up to the past couple of years, some people on the team have been remote, but the company itself is not remote. And it was really only a couple of years ago that started to change on a significant level, which is when I came back from the freelance world into full-time work, when I could finally have a remote job at a remote company. So I just want to call that out as amazing, and congratulations to everybody who is working to build a better remote team. We're all this is the bleeding edge here.
Yeah.
We're figuring it out. So yes, okay, to your question. You asked what's the first thing that a company should do when they're going remote, and this is our number one answer, and it's very unpopular depending on who we're talking to. This is controversial.
We love an unpopular answer.
We advise that all of the executives need to start working remotely first before the rest of the company. And they do not want to do that. Some of them do. That's a stereotype. But generally, we have had a lot of pushback to that, right? Because executives are super busy and they really want someone to work out some of the processes before they have to do this in real time. But the best way to actually do it is for the executives to figure it out amongst themselves. And then that sets the tone, and it sort of says to the company, okay, we're taking this seriously, and everyone is really going to be remote, including the people at the very top.
Yeah, and that's very much like that top-down leadership of like, hey, we're going fully remote. But the E team, we're gonna stay in an office, but y'all can go be remote. And I feel like nothing really works better to know how something works than actually doing it, you know?
Right.
So it's very hard, I imagine, because I think a lot of executive teams' time is spent sort of moving quickly from one thing to another, and that face-to-face time can be very important and valuable. So then it's like they don't know how to replace that because it's not a concept that they've had to think about before or something they've had to really consider. Man, pandemic really, and
Yeah.
I think I know your opinion. It's the same opinion as mine. Is pandemic remote work is not remote work.
It's not at all remote work. We have all been through it, and not just talking about having to transition to working from home and having your kids at home and everything at home and not being able to go to the store. Beyond that, we've all been through it this past couple of years. People have lost people. We've been stressed. A lot of things have been happening in the world. This is not what having a normal day-to-day work experience should be like for a lot of people. And so if that's been your experience, understand that it's temporary. And I think everyone wants to build something better and more permanent. So yeah, when it's done well, it's like GitLab. I showed up for my first day at GitLab and all I had to do was open a computer, which had already been shipped to me. And then I received a list of items that I needed to work through, which was very boring, but it got me set up with all of the security that I needed, everything that I needed to do my job. And all of the systems were in place, right? And that is something that takes years to build. It doesn't happen overnight. So people are working on it right now at companies everywhere. And it's going to get better and better all the time.
Absolutely. I love that. And you talked this idea of like being passionate about the work and being excited about the work. And that's something that you said before the show when we were talking. That's something you were looking for when you were starting out after school. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to go back to you freshly graduated. You're trying to figure out where to go, what to do. You said you started as a secretary. How do you go from secretary to GitLab and working on the all remote team?
Okay, so I thought about this because we did discuss that we were going to talk about this. And I want to go back even further because I've been thinking recently about the choices that I've made in my life and how glad I am that I made the choices that I made when I did. And there's one specific thing that I feel like if I could get this across to people who are early career, and if you're wondering, what should I do? Should I get on the hustle train? Or should I do something else? And the one thing that I really want to say to you is think about it. You have options. And for me, I took the other option. I decided not to hustle. I made a very, very conscious choice in my 20s. And I said, you know what? You're only 20 once. I don't need a lot of money right now. I don't need much. I'm going to live my life for me instead of for my job for now. And later, I will have a great job. The career is ahead of me, but right now I want to figure out who I am and what I want from life. So I did. And so, yeah, so going back to the first secretary job, so it was at a very formal company, and they sat me in the receptionist desk next to a potted plant, and I answered the phone. And that's all I had to do. And it was so boring. It was so boring. And I just sat there all day, like with people, walking back and forth in front of me in their suits, and answered the phone. And as I sat there, I started sort of journaling, which at the time, there wasn't anything like a blog, but they were just starting to be one. And so I started journaling and I started posting it on my personal blog. And next thing you know, I decided I was a blogger. And I ultimately realized that I had something in me. I realized I could write. I liked to write. I wanted to write. I realized that tech was doing some really interesting things that I wanted to be a part of, wanted to be out there, finding out what was happening. And I really, really, really wanted to decide what I was doing with my time and what I was wearing and how I could express myself, because at the time, I was learning some things about myself, right? I had a girlfriend for the first time. Like, I didn't understand really how that fit into the normal way of life. I didn't tell anybody at my job, and I wanted to figure out, is there a life where I can be me? Where is that? How do I build it?
And the hard part of that is finding yourself first in order to be. So it's 2 steps. It's taking, and those 2 steps are a million steps. So the steps are an epic, and the smaller steps are issues underneath. But to find yourself and to understand yourself and to really know yourself is a lot of work, and you need time to do that work. Beyond that, it's then, okay, I know myself, or I have a better idea of myself. How does that self want to exist in the world? And those are 2 super complicated questions. And I can't believe at 20 that you kind of like knew that that was an important decision to make. Because at 20, I think I was concerned with trying to find a way to make like my chicken ramen stand out a little more. And
Sure.
it was a very different experience for me. But that's such an important journey. And I love that advice of you can't really decide what you want to do until you know who you are better. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate that I had the ability to make a choice like that. That my family supported me. They were not super pleased because they had paid for college, but they supported me, and I feel fortunate that I was lucky and was able to find some really cool stuff. And I spent my 20s basically figuring out who I was, so that in my 30s I could work with that and build something on that.
It's fantastic. I know that was one of the things you said was like hustle and like grind, and like hustle and grind culture is something that's really by a lot of younger people, millennials and Gen Z. We're really starting to look at that and be like, I don't know that that's the way I want to live my life. And I think we're realizing that there's a difference between hustle culture and working hard. And those are 2 different ideas. Hustle culture is very much take something you're passionate about and monetize it. You want to draw and sell it to people. You want to write and sell it. Like, it's attaching money and monetary worth to the things that we do for fun. Or if you want to be, I've seen a lot of this out there, like dancing. You got to work, you got to be really good. Don't show off yourself dancing online until it's perfect and it looks great. Whereas really, dance is meant to be an expression of yourself and your connection to whatever music you're listening to. So you don't have to monetize your passions. You can just have a passion and do it for fun. And I think that's hustling and grinding, is spending every second of every day making this life, like bringing money and like bringing in like experience and all this great stuff, as opposed to, oh, I work hard at work and I work hard, but I'm not grinding. Does that make sense? Am I being eloquent at all? I don't think
Totally. Yeah. And yes to Manuel Cookie also, normalize being mediocre at your hobbies.
It's fine. It's totally okay.
Have fun. What if you just did it for fun? Novel idea. So yeah, I totally understand that. I actually, with writing, I absolutely fell into the hustle and grind culture and was selling my writing for years for much less than it was worth, because that was the market, right? And so I'm out of that. I definitely learned from that. It's very tempting. I think all of us get drawn into it at one point or another. How am I going to monetize? How am I going to market myself? How do I brand myself? It's part of it, but just remember that you know who you are. And that's the most important thing. It doesn't really matter if other people know who you are.
Oh, I love it. And if you know who you are well enough, other people won't help but notice as well. And if they don't,
that's true.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, it's you. You're the one who has to sleep next to yourself for the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
That's right.
I love that you mentioned like wearing comfy clothes. Normally, when I do Meet the Tanukis, and I realized this 2 minutes into the stream, I was like, I'm not wearing a single piece of GitLab clothing. I'm wearing my death metal Sailor Moon shirt from a band that I love and a 1990s hat. And I was like, oh no. But then I was like, no, this is me. I'm being myself. I get to be myself at GitLab, and that's why I'm here. That's why I work at GitLab, is because I get to be myself. So
yeah, and we've got branding on the stream and all of that. I don't really wear swag too much. And this is a good segue. And the background for that is that when I worked for Burning Man, they paid us in t-shirts a lot of the time. So I have a closet full of swag that I don't know what to do with. And eventually I gave up trying. I'm going to just wear usually a black shirt. That's what I wear.
So when you were at, tell us about Burning Man. This is a period of your life that I'm very interested in hearing about. Tell us about your time with Burning Man.
So I had decided, I was like, yep, gonna do my own thing, gonna live my life. I started freelancing, I had been blogging, and the very next thing that happened was that somebody I knew who knew the CEO of Burning Man said, you should pitch yourself to Burning Man, they need a blog. So I did. And that was the beginning of a 10-year relationship with Burning Man. So I became the first ever blogger who blogged the setup and the teardown of the event and the playa restoration, which is an important phase because it's a leave no trace event. So I was basically living in the desert. I was working on the crew all day, and then I would blog in the evening, and I was taking photos, and it was great. I mean, I had a fantastic time. And I felt in that first year really clear that I had found my place. I found my people. I could be exactly who I was the whole entire time. I could be really proud of my work. I was doing something that nobody had ever done before at a company that was really pushing boundaries, and I was having an adventure. And that was amazing. And not to mention, this is in the desert, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world. So I was fulfilled on every level. And so from there, I stuck around Burning Man for 10 years. So I like to say I ran away to Burning Man for a decade.
That is an absolute like 90s dream, right? It's like, yeah, I work for Burning Man, so I'm always at Burning Man. And yeah, it's been 10 years. I bet there must have been an insane amount of growth during your time there, because Burning Man started out as this very, very niche event. Yeah. And it is now it's ubiquitous with like it is the name as far as like large gatherings in unique places.
Yeah, so I started in 2005, so I was not at the very beginning. Things had already been going for a while. I had heard about it. I knew people who had been going since the 90s, but I was way too square for all of that. I was not cool enough to try, and nobody was inviting me. But yeah, so between 2005 and 2015, I mean, a complete sea change, and it's continuing to change. That's one of the things about that festival is it got discovered. It got discovered by the tech world around probably 2008 or so. Mm-hmm. People were going before then. There were celebrities there every single year, but the tech world really got into it. And once that happened, there was a lot more money. There was a lot more photography. It was less driven by artists and more driven by event attendees, which is part of the evolution. That's what happens. Things change over time, and nothing changes more than an arts festival.
That's so true. Yeah. I think that when we talk about Burning Man and we talk about that idea of being passionate about something, and like you said, 2005, it was not the beginning at all, but it certainly was the beginning of that change and it becoming a part of a cultural term. In 2005, if you said Burning Man to someone,
absolutely,
like, most people would be like, oh, I maybe have heard of it. Only certain people had really heard of it. And by 2010, it is a thing that everyone knows. It's a part of the zeitgeist. It's part of the culture. And you were kind of at the front of that. Yeah. And now here you are at the front of remote work.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it. You're a trailblazer, Jessica. I think you're out there making changes that the world notices.
I am not inventing anything. I've been thinking about this lately. I'm not inventing anything, but I definitely seem to glom on to the next thing. And I'm quite proud of that. And I think part of that goes back to that decision early on to take risks and to follow not necessarily my heart, but some sort of zeitgeist, to follow what I was interested in, right? And so I found Burning Man fascinating. I went, and at the time when I joined, it was like, do not put on your resume that you work for Burning Man. It's a career killer. And so I didn't I didn't even tell my family that I was working there for a while. But
I work in desert restoration.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was freelancing, so I had other clients. So I just, just didn't tell anyone that I was going to the desert for several months. But yeah, so over time, obviously, it became something that I was quite proud of. And I think that, the reputation of that event has continued to evolve over time, but I really believe that I was there at some of the best years. I really do. And so then, yeah, I was ready to move on and ready to try something new. And the idea of working remotely was for me something that I had always believed in. I always was like, I can work remotely. I sit down, I do my work, because if I don't work, I don't get paid. So of course I, have no problem with the work ethic working remotely, and I'm much more comfortable. I get more done. I can focus. I can set my own hours, all of these things that we know, but it was very much like, no. You cannot get a real job that way. You can freelance, you can come into the office for a meeting, but you can't have a real job this way. That's not a thing. And I just believed that it was. And look at it now.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming the standard. And even as people are saying, we got to return to the offices, everyone's looking around going, gas is kind of expensive. I don't think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go find a company that will let me work remotely. Because if you can work remotely and you're still effective, I'm not sure there's a reason not to allow first off, at least allow your employees to do that. Second off, set it up so that they can be successful working remotely. Because to me, it just makes sense to have that at least as an option for a variety of literal ADA reasons. But nevertheless, people are out there saying you got to go back to the office, and I can't agree with that. That's no good.
Yeah, I can't really agree with it either. I understand that every team is different. And so I do support, individual companies, organizations, teams, and people deciding what they want and doing what's right for them. That I support. I think that the people who are really against remote work, they'll be proven wrong in time. But I do think we need to always keep space for people to choose exactly what's going to work for them. And that is what's so powerful about this moment, is that now there are just more options. And part of that has to do with tech catching up with people. It also just has to do with what we've been through these past couple of years and the fact that, we learned that we can actually do this. And so it's a big change for everyone. And it's going to, the great resignation, the great reshuffle, whatever you want to call it, that's really people choosing. They're saying, oh, okay, now I have options and I understand a little bit more about what my options are. So I choose option B. And, I think it's really cool. I love to see it happening.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. So you were so heavily involved in Burning Man, which is essentially it's helping throw a party for a bunch of other people. And I know I've always enjoyed trying to organize a party and trying to set something up for other people, but almost always I end up enjoying being at the party more, or being at a party more than throwing it, because I didn't have to worry about the work or setting up food and this and the other. 10 years setting up a party, and even at GitLab creating events for GitLab that help promote remote work. You told me, and I'm going to say the quote because it's so good. You told me, I don't like to just go to a party. I want to be the person throwing it. But why is that true for you? You'd rather throw the party and stand in the corner and watch people?
Well, okay, let me put it this way. No matter what kind of party and whether I'm throwing it or not, I'm going to be standing in the corner because I'm a little socially awkward. So that's actually why, I don't do this because I want to be the host. I'm not one of those people who's like, please, enjoy this experience I've created for you, and thank me for it.
Valued guests, thank you for arriving. Please find the crudité.
No. I'm really the person who's in the background, weirdly picking up trash.
Hold on, so in college, you would you'd be at a party and you look around and you're like, someone's gonna have to help clean up. You just grab a bag and start cleaning up.
No, I mean in college I was working raves, but yeah.
Even better. This story just got better, Jessica.
Yes, in college I was working raves, and then I ended up working Burning Man. It's just always been something that I like to do. I like people to have a good time. I like to make sure that happens. I like to make sure that it's safe. I like to make sure that it's well organized. And I've been around parties long enough that I sort of know how to do that. So yes, it transfers over to events as well. And I also, over time, really learned how to create a little bit of magic And that is a great skill to have, to really understand how to make magic happen in a group of people. Like, that's something you learn, and it is extraordinary to be able to do.
I love good magic. It's the sort of just the sparkly vibe that's in the air when everything is really just meshing well and everyone's happy and enjoying themselves. Ooh, it's hard to find.
Yes, and that's so beautiful. And just looking out at a group of people having a good time is rewarding, whether or not you were involved in creating it.
Actually, I never thought about whether that was true for me, but now I just realized I love to watch Twitch and other people doing things, and I love to watch. Lately, I've been watching footage of drum and bass boiler room sets where like there's a DJ and like 100 people behind them, and they're like spinning drum and bass live. And I just like full screen it on my work computer and sit at my work desk and go like this. So watching other people party is actually great, and watching other people enjoy themselves is fun.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic. I've been doing it forever.
You've convinced me. I'm not going to go to a festival anymore. I'm just going to watch it and save a ton of money.
Yeah, here's another good story for you. By the end of my time at Burning Man, so around 2014, 2015, I was living in Reno, which is the nearest city to Burning Man. So it's like a 2-hour drive. And by the end of the event, I would get tired of being hot and dirty. And instead of going to the big finale of watching the man burn, I would go home, take a shower, and watch it streaming on the internet, which is how I knew I was done. I was like, okay, I'm done.
There does come a point, even though you're passionate and excited about there comes a point where you look and you go, I feel like I've hit a moment here where I'm okay, and I can start looking for the next thing.
Yeah.
So that happened. What happens between the end of Burning Man? You go home, you shower, you watch the man burn, and you go, I don't know that the next event is happening for me. Yeah. And GitLab. When did you start at GitLab, actually?
So I started at GitLab in 2020. So there's a 5-year period there. And so the biggest thing for me was figuring out what to do next. So I had already, before the end of Burning Man, I had already gotten quite successful with my writing, which was my main gig. So I would do Burning Man 3 months of the year, and then I had the other 9 months to fill. So the rest of the time I was doing writing, I was doing marketing, and I was working with a lot of different clients. And I got into ghostwriting, which is where you do the writing on behalf of someone, which I actually loved, because what I would get to do is I'd be working with like CEOs and thought leaders, and they would be just espousing all of their wisdom. And they would just say everything they had ever learned. And I would just be cool, and I'd write it down. And I got all these amazing life lessons through that. And so that was sort of like the transitional phase for me. But writing is a really tough gig. Writing is just hard work right now in our culture because it's underpaid. And so you have to do so much of it. And there's really only so much creative juice that you have. And around 2016 to 2017, I thought, maybe I'm ready to actually go get a job. And I miss being in tech. Tech is fun. It was like Burning Man in the way that it was like innovative, creative, something's happening all the time. It's always exciting. And I thought, I want to be in that world. I want to go back to that. And around 2017, it became possible. Finally, everything came together, and it was possible to have a job fully remotely at a fully remote company. So that's what I did. In 2017, I joined TopTal, which is a global freelance network. And I was on the community team. So it was amazing. I got to spend all of my time talking with all of these brilliant professional people from all over the world and connecting with people. It was fantastic. And that really proved to me, okay, this is something I want to do. I want to be in tech. I want to be on a global team. I want to work remotely, and I want to do work that challenges me. And then I found GitLab. And it was like all of the bells were ringing. Someone on my old team actually said to me, Jessica, you got to read this handbook because you got to read the values page, because this list of values is what you talk about all the time. And I was like, okay, cool. And I read it. And then I looked at the jobs page, and there was a job about remote work, spreading the word about remote work. And I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I can't even believe that we have the same GitLab origin story where we read a job posting and it felt like it was written for us.
Unbelievably, yes. I didn't know that about you.
Yes. So, I don't want to get too much into my story, but my story was I was a teacher, high school teacher. In 2020, I started learning to code because I had a summer where I couldn't go get a second job, which is teacher tradition. And I started learning to code. I had a mentor, my friend Brandon, and then my friend Chloe came in and mentored me. And I ended up applying to a job. I say yes. They end up rescinding the offer. So then I had already put in my 2 weeks of school. So then I was unemployed. During that time, all I was looking for was a job. I wanted to do DevRel. I was like, I'm a teacher. I have 10 years experience as a teacher. I'm learning to code. I can talk to people. I know how to teach. I know how to present. Give me a chance. A recruiter reaches out and says, hey, there's this job at GitLab called Education Evangelist. And I read it. And in every single interview, from the sourcing interview to every manager I talked to, I said, you wrote this job description about me. I'm a former teacher. I love making content. I'm coding. I can learn anything. Just look at me. And like the description felt like they were like reading my diary. It was amazing.
That's unbelievable. I love that. We totally have the same story. Yeah, when I was reading that job description, my literal reaction was, nobody in the world can do this job better than me. And I'm not a super confident I've definitely worked on my confidence, but I've overcome a lot of imposter syndrome. And through all of the imposter syndrome, I still knew that I was the best person for the job. And that was such a cool feeling to know that and to just be like, I can't believe it. The dream job has arrived.
I want that feeling for everybody to feel confident, not in a way that other people perceive you as haughty or cocky or full of yourself, but where people perceive you and look at you and go, no, they're absolutely right. They're absolutely right. They're perfect for this particular situation. That's how I feel about when there's things on a tall shelf and they need me to grab it down because I'm 6'6". Because I'm 2
I need
meters
you around my house. Yeah. I have this one shelf. Anyway, yes, I was very, very lucky also that the people who were interviewing, I mean, that the interviewing was inclusive, it was thoughtful, and I felt like I was able to really express that about myself. And I really felt seen. I was very surprised that I actually got the job because imposter syndrome, but at the comments at the end were, they really made me feel that I had been seen and that I was appreciated and that I was welcome. And so it was all just very exciting.
Yeah, there's nothing better than seeing the values laid out. And there's even an interview during GitLab where you sort of talk specifically about the values of GitLab and which one you like and which one you, and it's not a culture fit test because culture fit's not a thing. Culture ad is better, but even at GitLab, we try not to talk about culture as much as values because values can be lived up to, and culture is very nebulous and sticky and weird, I think. But when you can point to a specific sub-value or value and say, this is what we use to guide our decision making, I think it makes for a really powerful environment to work in.
It does. And those values just in general, I had so much of my previous choices had been very specifically values based, like morals for me mean something different from what they mean in, for other people in other cultures. We all have our own set of morals. And for me, I really wanted to be honest. I wanted to be kind. I wanted to be transparent. I wanted to be always innovating. And all of these things are in the values, and I wanted to produce results. These are all the values, right? On the GitLab handbook. But you can read that, but it doesn't mean the company actually does it.
Yes.
And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm taking this gamble. They're saying all the right things. We're going to see. We're just going to see. And at first, I had very much had my walls up when I first got to GitLab. I had had tough experiences in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been through it professionally, and so my first reaction on getting on the GitLab Slack was, "Why is everybody being so fake nice to each other?" Only to learn that they were actually being nice. What a concept! What a concept.
Everyone here is saying thanks for the question, and it just kind of sounds real sarcastic. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. No, they mean it. Like, thanks. That is a good question. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to like elucidate on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was very
Why
refreshing.
is everyone being so fake nice? Everyone's kind here. What's going on? This isn't normal. Man.
Yeah.
Speaking of Slack, there's a channel that we're both a part of, and I think it might be both of our favorite channel. And
it is. I know which one you're talking about.
It is the all caps channel. Why do we love the all caps channel so much?
Okay, so the all caps channel, if it's not clear from the name, let's explain that this is a channel where you are only allowed to post in all capital letters. You cannot use lowercase letters, and if you do, you get called out. All caps all the time. I love this channel for many reasons. Number one is that everybody there is super passionate about posting in all caps, and they do it several times a day, and there's long comment threads, and everybody posts in all caps. But then number two is just that it's a place where people go when they need to yell something.
Yes.
Imagine that. Just having a little spot you can go in your company and you can say, my cat got lost, or I ate a donut and it was so good, or whatever. People post 20 different things a day. And
it's amazing.
It's just a little safe space for strongly felt emotions. And I kind of just love that. It's like Twitter, but like no politics, nothing, that's going to bother anybody. It's just like, remember when we used to all just post about what we had for lunch? That's what it is. Except you're yelling about it.
It's fantastic. The most recent post is, granola is a lie.
Yeah. Exactly. It's just, I think that every space that we're in, whether it's your company, your job, or whatever teams that you're on, or whatever clubs you're in, you need to make space for just randomness, for funny, for that magic that I was talking about. When we let loose and just know that we can sort of vent and release something that's in ourselves, and that it'll be received and observed and received kindly, then we start to get loose. We get comfortable, we have fun, and we become human with each other. And that's, I don't ever want to be in a place where I can't be human. I just don't.
I constantly, and I have a friend who's like this as well, and he's got like a super serious job, but we are both constantly being like, well, I'm going to be my sort of like not serious self most of the time until it's time to be serious. And like, I can be very serious. I can put on the stern face. I can get the work done. I can say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yep, I can do this. I can do that. But also, I'm going to have fun with it. I absolutely have to decorate my wall like this. Yeah. I have to.
And why wouldn't you?
It is my space, right? Exactly. And even if I wasn't at GitLab, like let's say it's 5 years down the road and I end up leaving for another great opportunity, which may happen. I don't know. I might just stay at GitLab for 30 years too.
Just stay.
This is going to stay here no matter where I work for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because it is a chance to be myself, and having a specific Slack channel where you can go be yourself, be immediately accepted unless you're whispering, then it's wonderful. I can't explain how happy I was to find that Slack channel.
Yeah. It is really, truly important to be able to express yourself. I love your background. I adore your background. I wish I had enough like design talent to create that with so much authority and confidence.
I will say that the issue is that it really limits where I can put my desk. Oh. I had some friends stay over a little bit ago, and this is the guest bedroom. To my right is a bed, and in order to extend the bed fully, I have to turn my desk in and put all my stuff away. And when the desk was turned, I was like, man, this really opens up the room. I like it a lot. And then I was like, but I don't get my corner, so that's what's most important. And I turned it back, and here I am. This is where I live now.
Yeah, that's a new thing in life, is the Zoom background. Like,
oh yeah,
your space. Like this green wall, it's one wall. The other walls in this room are beige. I just didn't paint them yet. I just did that wall first.
Just that one, because you knew it was going to be behind you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm getting spam. That's fun.
Oh, cool. Spam.
Yeah. So it goes. I will say, we gotta do an all caps game or something.
Okay.
I think we should scream and all caps our let's scream. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to scream it, and you have to answer it and scream it. It's going to be all favorites, okay? We're going to do favorite screams.
No, wait. I don't do favorites.
I
don't do favorites.
Don't do favorites.
I don't like to have favorites.
How about, what about like a list of like your top 3 favorite ice creams?
I could try.
I believe in you.
Okay, hit me.
Okay. What are your top 3 favorite songs that get you excited to work?
I can't think of any.
Don't worry about them being your favorite. If you pick a song to get you excited, what's it gonna be?
I listen to classical music like a nerd.
Yes, I love it. Rock in the morning.
I listen to the classical radio station all day long, and I'm proud of it.
Is it a really low number on the dial? It's always like 88.6 is classical.
Yeah, no, I listen to it on Apple Music, classical radio.
That you heard it here first. The all caps official music is classical music. Get your Bach, get your Rachmaninoff, and get your Wagner on Apple Music Classical.
No, I hate Wagner.
Wagner is problematic, actually. I regret saying it. This was a good segment. This is good interneting right now, for sure.
Yep, definitely.
And because we have limiters on our mics, it doesn't quite hurt anyone's ears.
Hopefully.
I hope.
I mean,
We apologize if we hurt your ears with that. But that is absolutely, we're going to cut that clip. We're going to put it in the all caps channel, and we're going to be famous, Jessica. We're going to be famous.
GitLab famous. I'm so excited.
Now that we've screamed, I think it's important that we start wrapping up. And I think the best way to wrap up is to come with some advice. And advice for, how about, let's give our former self advice. Let's have you give your former self some advice. What have you learned now that you wish you could tell younger you? And to be honest, I don't know that you have anything. It sounds like younger you had everything figured out.
Oh no. No. Just because I was trying does not mean that I had it figured out. So yeah, if I could talk to my younger self, I would say, Jessica, you're doing the right thing, and you don't need to lie about it. You don't need to hide who you are. You don't need to try to act like you are conforming. Go ahead on your journey. It will take you to a good place.
That's exciting. And to anyone else out there who is wondering, well, am I doing the right thing? What happens if I don't? It's okay to at the very least, take the time to think and consider it. And to take the time to plan out what you're going to do. And to have that opportunity for yourself. Jessica, this has been one of my favorite things I've ever done on the internet, this entire show. You're one of my favorite people I have ever had the pleasure to meet on the internet, on the Meeternet.
Ways.
I'm so happy that my life brought me to GitLab, and I'm so happy that your life brought you to GitLab, because without those many meandering roads that connected to other paths, and I think we all know the Robert Frost poem, I don't know that we would have ended up here, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I fully agree. Thank you so much. This is totally fun. We should definitely do it again sometime. Maybe get Sugar Overflow on here with us.
Listen, she's on my list. She's on my list of people who need to come do this.
I will totally watch that.
It would be good. I'm throwing your website up there, jessicareader.com.
Oh, yeah. And on that website, I put a little timeline of my career. It's right there on the front page. So, yeah, enjoy. Read through it.
Fantastic. Read about that. You can read her README at the about.gitlab.com and the handbook marketing READMEs. You can read all about what Jessica Reader does. If there's any spaces that need to be filled in after this episode, that will certainly help fill them in. Jessica, absolute pleasure. And thank you all for tuning in. And I will see y'all later. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, PJ.